There are moments in baseball that have nothing to do with baseball. Moments that strip away the scoreboards and the statistics and the carefully constructed narratives of a pennant race and reveal something underneath that is older and simpler and more important than any of it. Last night was one of those moments. It began not with a home run. Not with a strikeout. Not with any of the things that fill highlight reels and generate the kind of conversation that keeps sports television running through the night. It began with Freddie Freeman going down. And it ended with Shohei Ohtani refusing to leave his side. The moment happened in the 6th inning. Freeman had been having the kind of night that reminds everyone why he is one of the most complete hitters in the history of this franchise. 2 hits already. Patient at-bats. The kind of presence in the lineup that changes how opposing pitchers approach every other hitter around him. And then he moved wrong. It was not a dramatic collision. It was not the kind of injury that announces itself with immediate clarity. It was the quiet kind. The kind that starts as something a player tries to walk off. Something he tries to minimize in front of his teammates because that is what professional athletes do. They minimize. They compartmentalize. They return to the dugout and sit down and tell the trainer it's nothing. Freeman sat down. He told the trainer it was nothing. The trainer did not agree. What followed happened quickly and quietly in the way that medical situations inside baseball stadiums always happen. Away from the cameras when possible. With the specific efficiency of a training staff that has seen enough to know when something requires more than a dugout evaluation. Freeman was helped off the field. The stadium understood immediately that this was not routine. The applause that followed him down the tunnel was the kind of applause that carries concern inside it. The kind where 56,000 people are clapping but also holding their breath. Dave Roberts stood at the edge of the dugout and watched Freeman disappear. His expression said what his words would not say for another 40 minutes. This was serious. But here is what the cameras captured that nobody expected. Here is the image that traveled faster than any box score or injury report or official statement from the Dodgers organization. Shohei Ohtani, still in his uniform, still carrying the weight of a game that was ongoing and undecided, walked down that tunnel. He did not jog. He did not hurry in the performative way of someone who wants to be seen caring. He walked with the quiet, deliberate purpose of someone who had already made a decision and was simply executing it. He was going with Freddie Freeman. Not because anyone asked him to. Not because it was part of any protocol or team directive. But because Freddie Freeman was hurt and Shohei Ohtani was his teammate, and in Ohtani's understanding of what those words mean, that was the only relevant fact. The game continued without him for 11 minutes. Dave Roberts addressed it afterward with the careful precision of a manager navigating something that existed simultaneously in the world of baseball and outside of it. He was asked first about the injury. About the bleeding. About what the hospital evaluation had revealed and what it meant for Freeman's availability going forward. Roberts placed both hands on the table in front of him. He exhaled through his nose. The controlled exhale of a man organizing difficult information before releasing it into a room full of people with cameras and deadlines. He said, "The evaluation showed more than we initially thought. There was internal bleeding that needed to be assessed properly. That's why the decision was made to go to the hospital immediately rather than wait." The room absorbed that. Internal bleeding. 2 words that transform a baseball injury into something that has no business being discussed in a baseball press conference. 2 words that suddenly make the final score of the game feel like the least important thing that happened last night. A reporter asked the follow-up immediately. "What is the timeline?" Roberts shook his head slightly. Not dismissively. With the genuine uncertainty of someone who did not yet have the information being requested. "We don't have a full picture yet. What I can tell you is that Freddie is stable. He is being taken care of. And everything else comes after that." Then came the question nobody had planned to ask at the start of the evening. Someone near the back of the room raised a hand. "Can you talk about Ohtani going to the hospital with Freeman?" Roberts looked at the reporter for a moment. Something shifted in his expression. Not dramatically. Subtly. The way a person's face changes when a conversation moves from the professional to the personal without warning. He said, Shohei made that decision himself. Nobody asked him to go. Nobody suggested it. He came to me before he left and he said he wanted to be there. That was it. That was the whole conversation. Roberts paused. I've been managing baseball for a long time. I've had great players. I've had great teammates. What Shohei did tonight was not about baseball. It was about who he is as a person. And I think sometimes we spend so much time talking about what he does on the field that we forget to talk about that. The room was quiet in the way rooms go quiet when something true has been said plainly. The playing decision came later. And it was shocking in the way that only decisions made under genuine emotional weight can be shocking. Not shocking because it was irrational. Shocking because of what it revealed about the calculations Roberts was forced to make in real time with incomplete information and a roster suddenly missing one of its most important pieces. Roberts had initially planned to keep Ohtani's workload managed. This was not a night, according to the pre-game plan, where Ohtani was going to be asked to carry the offensive burden alone. Freeman's presence in the lineup was part of how that burden was distributed. Freeman hitting behind Ohtani changes how pitchers approach Ohtani. Freeman in the lineup is not just Freeman's production. It is the protection it provides to every hitter around him. Without Freeman, the equation changed completely. Roberts made the decision in the 7th inning. He was going to give Ohtani every opportunity. Every at-bat. Every situation that arose. Whatever the game asked for from that point forward, the answer was going to be Shohei Ohtani. It was not a difficult decision to make intellectually. It was an enormous decision to ask of a player who had just spent 11 minutes in a hospital tunnel with his injured teammate. Ohtani returned to the dugout before the 7th inning began. He did not speak to reporters then. He did not make a statement. He sat down, picked up his batting gloves, and looked at the field with the expression of a man who had compartmentalized something heavy and was now focused entirely on what was in front of him. Roberts caught his eye from across the dugout. One nod. That was the entire exchange. What followed over the final 3 innings was the kind of performance that becomes difficult to describe without sounding like you are exaggerating for effect. Ohtani went to the plate 3 more times after returning from the tunnel. He reached base all 3 times. The final at-bat produced the moment that will be replayed for a very long time. 2 runners on. 2 outs. A full count. The kind of at-bat that compresses an entire game into a single pitch. The pitcher threw a fastball. Ohtani hit it so hard and so far that the opposing outfielder did not move. The Dodgers won. And in the visiting clubhouse of a stadium that had just watched all of this unfold, Freddie Freeman received a text message. Nobody confirmed what the message said. Nobody needed to. Because Shohei Ohtani had already said everything that needed to be said with the way he spent his evening. With the 11 minutes in the tunnel. With the 1 nod across the dugout. With 3 at-bats that produced 3 base runners in the final innings of a game his team needed to win. When asked about Freeman after the game, Ohtani was brief. He said, "Freddie is important to this team. More than that, Freddie is important to me. I wanted him to know he wasn't alone tonight." He paused for exactly 1 moment. Then he added, "The rest was baseball." Dave Roberts held his final press conference of the evening with the look of a man who had managed a baseball game and something considerably larger than a baseball game simultaneously and was still processing which one had taken more out of him. A reporter asked him directly, "When you made the decision to lean on Ohtani for those final 3 innings, were you worried about asking too much?" Roberts looked at the reporter. He said, "I thought about it. Of course I thought about it." He had just been through something emotional. Something real. And I was about to ask him to go out there and perform at the highest level in a game that mattered. He stopped. Then he said the thing that will stay with everyone who was in that room. But then I remembered who I was asking. And I stopped worrying. There are moments in baseball that have nothing to do with baseball. Last night was one of them. A man got hurt. His teammate refused to leave him alone in a hospital tunnel. A manager made a decision that asked everything of a player who had already given something that doesn't show up in any statistics. And the player responded the way Shohei Ohtani responds to everything that is asked of him. Completely. Quietly. Without explanation. The final score is in the books. The injury report will be updated in the morning. The baseball conversation will continue the way it always continues, moving forward because that is what baseball does. But last night, for 11 minutes in a tunnel beneath a stadium, the baseball conversation stopped. And what was left was just two teammates. And one of them refusing to let the other face it alone.